This is the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and it has been almost to the minute 1 month exactly since I started using it as my main everyday device. And I feel like it has been just about long enough now for me to do a slightly more in-depth review of the thing. And look, let's just acknowledge straight out of the gate here that yes, this phone is very similar to the S24 Ultra, which itself was already pretty similar to the S23 and S22 Ultra, and we'll unpack all of that, don't you worry. But here's the thing, even accepting that this phone is an overwhelmingly incremental release, the fact of the matter is that it's still one of the best phones that you can get right now. Almost frustratingly so. So, let's begin. Starting with the design, and despite what many have been saying, I actually think the design of this phone is one of the more compelling changes that Samsung chose to make with the S25 Ultra. You see, for the first time in a really long time with this Note style lineup, Samsung has chosen to veer away from the ultra boxy style form factor just by a little bit, by ever so slightly rounding off the corners. They've also completely flattened out the side rails too, so it still has a very boxy look and feel to it, but from a visual standpoint, along with those incredibly slim bezels, this to me is one of the best looking phones on the market from the front. Now, making the side rails completely flat without some sort of rounding off into the back does have the slight downside that this phone is now less comfortable in the hand compared to previous Ultra devices, but if you're someone who puts your phone in a case, then this is essentially a non-issue. Aside from that, the only other design change is in relation to these camera rings on the back. And yes, I know about the controversy, they're glued on and can be pried off with a knife, but what did you expect? Screws? In my opinion, again, this is a total non-issue. Sure, you could pry them off, but I'm positive that you could do that with plenty of phone parts if you tried hard enough. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a little bit of a design flair, and I respect it. Without those rings, this phone would look even more like last year's model, and so I, for one, appreciate the differentiation. What I do wish Samsung had fixed by now though is the insane wobble when using the phone flat on a table. If you've got a case on, then no problem, but as a non-case user, this thing wobbles more than any other phone that I've ever used. So still some room for improvement in the design department, but at least it's not a carbon copy of last year's phone, right? And whilst we're talking about hardware, we may as well get this out of the way. You all probably know by now that whilst the S Pen looks pretty much identical to last year's S Pen, sadly, Samsung chose to remove its Bluetooth functionality, stating that user data suggested hardly anyone actually used it. And sure, maybe that's true, but if you're going to remove a feature, at least replace it with something new, right? But no, they just removed it. By that logic, if every phone maker decided to ditch features based on low usage, then we'd probably have no macro mode, we'd probably have no DeX, heck, we probably wouldn't have an S Pen either. Like, that's not why you add or remove features, Samsung. The Bluetooth functionality was a feature that you know users appreciated having, even if it was for the 1 or 2 times they used it a year. So fingers crossed, Samsung listens and we see the return of Bluetooth with the S Pen on next year's S26 Ultra. Real quick, I did want to touch on the fingerprint sensor and the haptics, just for those who, like me, are interested in that stuff. And look, the short story is that neither of these aspects have been changed with the S25 Ultra. And I kind of get the haptics staying the same. They were already world-class with last year's S24 Ultra, but in a day and age where even Google themselves have caught up and added ultrasonic fingerprint sensors to their phones, Samsung could have decided to one-up the competition by adding in one of those bigger and better sensors. But alas, it's just yet another feature they decided could stay the same. Same goes for their face unlock feature. And honestly, it might as well not exist as far as I'm concerned, given how clear it seems that Samsung doesn't care about it one bit. I mean, it hasn't been touched for like at least 5 years at this point, probably even more than that. And again, when you've got Google still improving their system so much so that you can actually use it with banking apps and so forth, you just get the feeling that Samsung is lagging behind. And again, it's a very similar story with the display, which is essentially identical to the display on last year's S24 Ultra. Now, on this point, I actually do think that Samsung has kind of earned the right to use the same display, thanks to the fact that, somewhat surprisingly, they're still the only manufacturer using that amazing anti-reflective coating. And the other thing that I've noticed is that, at least to my eyes, it seems to be able to stay at its max brightness level for longer than other competing phones, namely the Pixel 9 and 9 Pro. So Samsung, I'll give you a pass because this display is just so dang good, but I suggest that you be hard at work looking to make next year's display better and brighter, because the competition isn't just catching up anymore, they've pretty much outright caught up. Just one final note on build quality, then we'll move on, but I will say the speakers on the S25 Ultra are absolutely banging. Now, I don't have last year's S24 Ultra to compare it with, but here's a quick comparison with the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, are they better than the iPhone speakers? Well, probably not quite, but they're very, very good nonetheless, which to me is super impressive. Moving on to battery now, and this is another aspect that, whilst not bad, hasn't seen much improvements over last year's S24 Ultra. Now, is that surprising? I mean, no. Samsung have once again opted to go for the safe route here, and they haven't adopted that new silicon carbon technology that we've seen other flagships starting to adopt in recent times. And so, given that we're still maxed out at 5,000 milliamp hours, any battery life improvements would come down entirely to the new chipset and any software optimization. And look, the battery is still very solid on this phone, and I have zero complaints with it. And honestly, after what Samsung went through with the Galaxy Note 7, I kind of don't blame them for preferring to play it safe. Now, there's two more aspects of this phone that I want to address, but before we get there, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about today's video sponsor, Pulseway. And look, I know that you've heard me talk about Pulseway before, but there is a reason I keep coming back to it, and that's because it is a game changer for IT pros. And let's say, as an example, like me, you live in Australia, but you wanted to monitor networks in, say, the US, well, Pulseway lets you do exactly that. Picture this, you're at the beach enjoying a warm summer arvo when you get an alert that a critical server is down. Normally, that'd mean that you'd have to scramble back to the office, but with Pulseway, you just pull out your phone, fix the issue remotely, and get back to enjoying your weekend. Pulseway gives you real-time control over your IT systems, meaning you can monitor devices, you can patch issues, you can even push software updates, and you can do all of this whilst also being on the go, and this gives you more time to, I don't know, sit back and watch the cricket, for example. So if you're tired of using tools that don't deliver, then you've got to try out Pulseway using the first link down in the description below. All right, from there we have the cameras, and credit where credit is due. I don't know if Samsung watches my videos or not, but take a look at what I said in my review of the S24 Ultra last year. I will just quickly note, I think it might be time for Samsung to make some upgrades to the ultra-wide lens though, because there is a noticeable drop-off in quality when shooting with it, particularly during videos. And what camera upgrade did we get with this year's S25 Ultra? We got a brand spanking new ultra-wide lens, which is honestly really great to use and is pretty much on par now with the quality that you get out of the main and 5x lenses. But I don't know why I didn't mention it, or maybe it just flew under the radar thanks to that subpar ultra-wide lens last year. But this year, it's the 3x lens that sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, look at these two photos taken of my son, the first with the 3x lens and the second with the 5x lens. I'm hoping you can see the difference after YouTube compression has done its thing, but yeah, just night and day in terms of how much better the one taken with the 5x lens looks. So my fingers are doubly crossed that Samsung will complete the package and address the 3x lens next year, and hopefully the selfie lens while they're at it. But even with those slightly underwhelming lenses, it's still one of the most reliable camera systems to use, and honestly, 99 times out of 100, I am really, really impressed by the results that it produces. Whether it's photos of people, especially portrait shots, which I think Samsung is one of the best at, or whether it's images of landscapes or buildings or videos, pretty much anything I shoot with this phone, I'm happy with. And honestly, that's not the case with a lot of other phones that I use. That being said, in terms of camera hardware and processing, you don't have to look too far to see that other phone makers have pulled well ahead of Samsung. I mean, all the flagships from Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi, they all capture seriously amazing photos and videos with a camera app that feels just as snappy as the iPhone's camera app. And so whilst the S25 Ultra has a very reliable camera system, I do wish that Samsung would step up and close the gap with its competitors somehow. Now, I did want to quickly address one of the headline features that Samsung added to the software side of things this year, which is that we now have the ability to shoot videos in a log picture profile. Now, keep in mind, this isn't using any sort of extra high quality codec like what iPhones allow you to do with ProRes log, but it does give you a little extra flexibility when it comes to grading your clips in post, which is nice. Okay, so this is a very quick test so that you can see the difference when shooting in log on both the Galaxy S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro. I'm obviously going to switch the grade on and off so that you can see the before and after, and so that you can see how each phone handles grading after shooting in this log mode. Couple of things to keep in mind. I'm using the ultra-wide lenses on both phones because the S25 Ultra doesn't let us shoot with the selfie camera when we've got log enabled. So just to make sure everything is in frame, I've used the ultra-wide lenses instead of the main lenses. And then also I'm shooting at 4K 30 instead of 4K 60, which I normally like to shoot in just to give myself more flexibility in post. But the iPhone 16 Pro doesn't let you shoot any higher than 4K 30 unless you have external storage attached, which I do not. Now, it's gonna be pretty hard to notice after YouTube compresses this video, but I will say the iPhone's footage when shooting with ProRes log is noticeably nicer and less phone looking than the Samsung's. However, its file sizes are also astronomically larger, so that's just something to keep in mind. Just one thing to note, you can't change lenses after you've pressed record when shooting log on the S25 Ultra. You also can't shoot log with the selfie camera, all of which you can do on an iPhone, so it is quite limited in its current state. But all that being said, I do appreciate that we at least have the option to use this mode now. And so up to this point, you might be thinking, well, it sounds like an okay phone, but why don't I just buy one of those Xiaomi or Vivo phones? And the honest answer is the software. I mean, One UI was already pretty good before, but with the release of One UI 7, man, Samsung has just absolutely kicked it out of the park. It's way more fluid than before, so the phone feels extra responsive. It's also still hands down the most customizable software that you can get on any phone, which just makes it so dang fun to play around with. And then Samsung have added all of these just downright useful features this year, like the Now Bar feature, or the fact that we have way more lock screen widgets by default. And I can't talk about the software without mentioning the new vertical app drawer, which I love. And by the way, I love that it remembers your position even after opening and closing apps. I've actually found that to be so useful, and now I want it on other phones. Here's the thing though, One UI 7, as delayed as it might be on older phones, the fact of the matter is that it is coming to older Samsung phones, so in isolation, it's not a reason to get the S25 Ultra. You combine it with the new Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset though, and you gotta admit, you ain't gonna get a more fluid experience on a Samsung phone than what you'll get with any of the S25 devices released this year. Oh, and real quick, all of those AI features Samsung promoted for so long during that launch event, sure, they're cool in theory, but not only are they also gonna eventually trickle down to their older phones as well, they're pretty much all Gemini powered, so this means they're gonna be available on all Android phones soon enough too, not just Samsung phones. All right, real quick, before we wrap up, there are a couple of quick software related comments that I wanted to make, because if I don't say them, then Samsung won't know how to fix them, so just bear with me whilst I mention each of these. Firstly, notifications. Obviously, we know they got an updated look with One UI 7, but they're also functionally slightly worse now. So if, like me, you have this panel setting set to together, you actually won't get a media player ever when you first swipe down. You'll only ever see it on the second swipe, and that is kind of annoying. Secondly, if you've got groups of notifications, which is quite often the case with email apps and so forth, then you can no longer tap a group of notifications to open up the app. You first have to tap to expand the group, then tap one of the notifications, and this to me is really, really annoying. Also, this Now Brief feature that Samsung heavily promoted at the launch presentation, firstly, there ain't any AI involved in it whatsoever, but also, if you're not in the Samsung ecosystem using their watches or rings or health-related accessories, then this thing is pretty much useless. So hopefully Samsung can find a way to make it more relevant, even if you're not as deeply embedded in their ecosystem. And then finally, if you have this lift to wake setting switched on, then you will have significant issues with the phone waking up in your pocket and attempting to scan your non-existent finger. And as a result, you'll often pull your phone out of your pocket and be blocked from using your fingerprint sensor completely because there have been too many failed attempts. Samsung needs to implement some sort of pocket mode because I should be able to keep this lift to wake setting enabled without having to deal with this issue. Oh, and Samsung, please bring back the swipe to invoke assistant setting, even if it's through a good lock module. All right, software rant over. Let's now wrap this up. Okay, so I feel like a large focus of this video has been on how similar this phone is in comparison to past Galaxy Ultra devices. And yes, whilst that is true, I have never enjoyed using a Galaxy Ultra device as much as I have the S25 Ultra. Yes, it's very similar to past devices, but it's also by far the most refined, most well put together phone that Samsung has ever released. And here's the thing, if you've been using a mid-range phone for a few years, or if you're rocking an S25 Ultra or older, then this is actually an incredible phone to upgrade to. And let's be real for a minute, Apple is just as guilty as Samsung in terms of releasing minor, iterative phones each year. It's just that the Samsung, who was once known for being at the forefront of innovation and technology, well, they're kind of starting to lag behind. I still think this is probably the most well-rounded phone that you can buy in terms of hardware and software features combined right now, but I also think that Samsung is now well overdue to make some big upgrades with this entire lineup next year.